Claire, Thomas.
We did it.
We did it. We made it.
Yeah, this was fun.
What time is it where you are, Claire?
It's 11 o'clock at night on Tuesday, so it's still the 12th.
That's good. That's good. It's later than that here, but that's fine.
You're 2 in the morning. And what are you, Thomas? Oh, you're on mute, and only you can unmute yourself, Thomas.
It's 6 p.m. here. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a pretty reasonable time to wrap up. So yeah.
You're ready for dinner, and I'm ready for a midnight snack. So but we're not here to talk about food. We're here to talk about Citus Con. First of all, big thank you to both of you. Aaron, you did a great job as host. I'm the host in the next live stream, which is happening in just a couple hours, the EMEA live stream. And so I'm kind of taking notes, looking at how you did it, looking at how Marco did it earlier today in the Americas one. And I loved your talk, Thomas. I want you to give more talks. So
thank you.
I know you've given a lot of Postgres talks before I even met you. I get it. You've been doing this for years, but maybe not so much during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was immediately actionable for me. I have things I'm going to go off and test with that, and just kind of gets me in the mood poking around on things. So yeah, thank you. And thank you very much to all the speakers who spoke today. The live streams you had just been excellent. I have learned a tremendous amount just being here, watching everybody. Thank you to everybody who's been asking questions in the Discord and on the live channels on Learn TV and on YouTube, etc. If people, speakers are around, including our on-demand speakers, we have 20 on-demand talks, which are there and able to be viewed on the Citus Con website. We'd love to hear what your favorite talks are, both live and on-demand, and some of the questions you have in the Discord here.
Yeah, so the thing that's cool about the Discord, I think Juliet's going to pop that banner up, is that because we have 3 live streams and these long intermissions in between, and then there's all these on-demand talks, right, where there's no opportunity for live Q&A. Yep. We created this Citus Con channel on our open source Discord, and the hope is that the speakers keep coming back, not just in the moments after their live talk, but tomorrow or later this week. And, hopefully, we're going to have more and more people watching these videos as they get published online too. So. And then you can always reach people on Twitter and on GitHub and other places. But we wanted to create a hallway.
Yes. I think during the pandemic and the times we've been without in-person conferences at the same rate, we've missed that hallway track. So we're always looking at ways to regain that in any way we can, which is good, because open source is about people, isn't it?
So I put up the slide here of what we just heard, so that we could take your thank you and put it to names. Like, I really enjoyed Umer's keynote. So if you arrived later and are interested in why Citus succeeded, why distributed Postgres is a thing, that's worth watching. Thomas, of course, we loved your talk. Hopefully mine was interesting. Anthony,
this was great.
I've heard of Anthony. I heard all about him when he joined Microsoft. I know he's very active in the Python world, but I've never actually seen one of his talks. So I was excited to see that. And I'd been wondering, what is this Hathy thing and why have I not heard of it? Well, now I know the story, and I love the genesis of the name, right? Which is the kernel in the Jungle Book. Is that right?
Yes, that is hilarious. I was cracking up the first time I heard it. So.
And then Cascade with localization, which is a super important topic. And Andre Connection Pooler, also really, really important topic. So, but we have more to come, right? This live stream is the second of 3. So I'm just going to quickly pop on screen and show you guys a picture of the EMEA live stream that starts in a couple of hours. And I don't know what you guys know about these particular speakers. I'm sure Thomas knows several of them personally. Magnus Hagander is the keynote speaker, and he's really famous in the Postgres world, particularly Postgres Europe. He's on the Postgres core team and has been for many, many, many years. And I first met him at PostgresConf Europe. He's very instrumental in organizing that event. And it is the most fun, the biggest Postgres conference that I know of. It's got so much buzz. And I once met an engineer who said, if my company won't send me to PGConf EU, I will quit. And I thought, I kind of feel that way too now. So Anyway, I'm eager to see what Magnus talks about. His talk title is something like Postgres more relevant than ever. So we'll see what he has to say. Have either of you, do you have any thoughts on the other speakers? Have you had a chance to check out their talk yet?
I won't be staying up this late, but I will be catching the replay tomorrow. So, which I assume I'll be able to do when I wake up. So I've left it as somewhat of a surprise, but to some respect.
It's going to be replay for me too.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stay up because I'm the host. We keep pushing the Citus Con website. So if we pop the aka.ms/CitusCon banner there, that's where you can find everything. You can find the live streams when they're happening. You can find the replays during intermission. You can click over to the schedule and look at all the on-demand talks. Those YouTube embeds are all there. And there's 20 of those on-demand talks. So everything's there. The one glitch is that you got to reload the website if perhaps it's cached. If you were there recently when it was in a different state, you got to reload. I know that happened to you, Thomas, and I know that happened to you, Aaron.
Yes.
So,
and I know we all think we're sort of understanding of caching and things by default, but that one even caught me earlier today, and I was like, oh, and then I refreshed the page, and I was like, oh, everything's fine.
Oh yeah, there it is. That's what I expect. So,
it's a test.
And then, even after the last live stream, we'll update the website again, and there'll be links to replays and all that. All of these talks are definitely going to be posted as individual talks online afterwards too, for people who can't stay up till the middle of the night or, have conflicts or whatever. But Hake Benita, really great talk about something that hit the top of Hacker News recently, like lesser known features of Postgres. Antoine and Mathieu both work at Algolia. And the Algolia team uses Citus and Postgres to power their search capability. And the canonical place I think of for Algolia search is actually Hacker News. So the Hacker News search is powered by Algolia, but I'm sure it's all over the place. I'm sure lots of people use their search. And then Alicia and Dia, they both work at Microsoft, and they're rolling out and talking about an Oracle to Postgres open source assessment. I think that's what it's about, but I'll find out when I get there. Johannes works at Mercedes-Benz in their R&D division, and he's a customer of Postgres, managed Postgres running in the cloud on Azure. So he's going to talk about his first impressions of the flexible server offering. And then you guys both know Marco.
Yes.
Marco is the technical lead of the Citus open source database engine. So I'm super excited about learning from all these people later today. I really am. We also have a lot of on-demand stuff that I don't know if you guys want to talk about particular talks. I have lots of slides here that I can point to, but there's also a couple of videos too. But I mean, this actually, Melanie was earlier today, and she was in the live stream. And she did a great job. And this is in this live stream. So I'm obviously not able to use these tiny thumbnails to bop around here. But there are, a whole bunch of talks. And I think what would be easiest would be to roll some of those videos. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's roll the general Postgres video, if you don't mind, Juliet.
I am the co-founder and CTO of OtterTune, which is a database tuning startup. Prior to this, I was a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon, and I graduated in February 2021. And during that time, I worked on knob tuning, and I also worked that entire time on Postgres as well.
I'm Francesco Tisiot, developer advocate at Ivan. And today, we together are going to understand how we can fix our strings. And, I wanted to give you an example of why we should fix strings, and I didn't have to go that far.
CyclePG is the most used and advanced Postgres driver for Python. It implements the Python DB API 2.0, and it's distributed under the LGPL license. The library was released more than 20 years ago.
And I am here today to talk to you about a talk titled No Array of Sunshine, a data quality focused tour of data types. And what I want you to know is, and this is the big takeaway, is that this is a talk about how choices we make around data types can impact data quality.
I'm going to be talking about integer to big int conversion. It's an advanced data talk for Postgres. And I've got a bunch of material that we're going to have to cover in a relatively short time. So I do want to just jump right on into it. And hopefully it'll be both educational and a little bit of therapy for those of you who've had to deal with this. And maybe even before you get to that point, this will have some tips that'll help you out.
If I wanted to just kind of get a high-level view of the whole query, particularly if I had many databases, I would have to sum all of that information up, aggregate it every time I wanted like that high-level view. If I do that at creation time, I can store one row per snapshot and then store the detailed information separately if I want to dig in.
Welcome to this talk about optimizing auto vacuum. I've been working with Postgres for about a decade now, in different roles, doing different things with it. As an extension developer for the Citus extension, I worked on working with a lot of customers who've been using Postgres and Citus and are having performance and scalability issues, talking to them, helping them get the best out of Postgres.
Wow, there we go.
It's fascinating. I think it's great that we've had so many people from all around the world submit talks. We've got such geographic and cross-subject matter here, which has been really, really good to see. And also the convenience of the live side of things, being able to reach people in different time zones. We've got great coverage in that sense.
I have 2 more videos I can roll, but I don't really want to bop from video to video. And I feel like I did a lot of the talking beforehand. I can talk a lot. I mean, it's a skill. It's a skill that I have. But sometimes it's better to listen. So I don't know. Did anything strike you in those? I mean, there's the reference to data types and big int. And I mean, that keeps coming up as a theme in several of the talks.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in checking out the talk about auto-tune, which automatically tunes all the settings in Postgres. Actually, Andre Borodin and I were discussing on the Postgres mailing list the other day whether we should add a feature that adds 7 more settings to control some really technical internal stuff that then no one will know how to set properly. And so far we've decided not to do that. But that's the kind of the idea of auto-tune is to try and explore all the possible settings and find as I understand it, that's the intention of the project, to find the settings for Postgres that will make it work the fastest for your workload, which is kind of interesting because from a Postgres developer point of view, what we'd like to do is make it so that you don't have to do that. It should be smart enough to come up with good settings for itself. And sometimes you get a patch that comes along, and we were discussing whether we should have this feature that if you tune it right, you can make Postgres go faster, but it's so hard to tune that you would need auto-tune to tune it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that talk and finding out a bit more about that.
I've seen similar approaches, particularly with startups, and focusing on things like the networking space, and it's really interesting to see that kind of auto-tuning approach. Obviously, in this case, they made heavy use of machine learning. Is machine learning being used in this area as well for that kind of thing, or?
I believe that's what they're doing, but I don't know how it works. I'd be really curious. I mean, I guess that's what the sort of thing they'll be doing. There's certainly people using machine learning techniques to try to understand statistics for query planning. I've seen a few extensions around that do that sort of thing. It's a really interesting area. Definitely a huge research area.
It's interesting. I want to talk about something procedural for a second. You just mentioned the PGSQL hackers mailing list. I think the mailing lists are a little bit different than the way some of the other open source communities work. And I don't know. Can you tell us a little bit about how it works?
Well,
Andres was telling me the other day he reads like 1,000 emails a day. Is it really that much?
It's a fire hose of text. Yeah. But you can't follow all the threads. There's too many topics, and each one of them involves significant investment to really get into it. Well, no, I mean it depends on the thread, but I mean some of them are quite difficult to follow, and some of them are about superficial things. It's all different. I think Postgres is a bit old-fashioned compared to a lot of open source projects that are not so old, obviously, and it sort of kept doing things in a more traditional way using a mailing list. And I guess that's a little bit intimidating for some people. I guess maybe if English isn't your first language, it might be quite difficult to get started, for example. So we try to be friendly, but yeah.
Are there other venues that feed in?
Wait, let me just be clear. You are friendly. Like, I got to tell you, my first PGConf I felt so incredibly welcome, even though I was new to Postgres and new to the community. So I
also think this is another aspect of what conferences bring. They bring that personalization of the people in the community, so that you do feel more comfortable reaching out, even if you've only seen them on a live stream talk. Or, I mean, obviously the best things often to bump into somebody in the hallway track and ask them that question in person, and that often sparks things. But it's very interesting.
Yeah,
I've often used the analogy that it's so funny that if you get in your car and you're driving down the freeway and maybe somebody almost cuts you off, and depending on your personality type, it'd be really easy to, like, within the confines of your car, call them a name or swear or get really frustrated. And yet that same person, if you ran into them on the sidewalk and were walking into a building at the same time, you might open the door for them. So that human touch just brings out, I think, our better side, right? Versus when we're really far away and distant. And I don't know.
Thomas, what do you find some of the platforms that sort of feed into the Postgres community? Obviously, Twitter is a large community for all sorts of things tech. There are others. Are there Reddits or Discords or things that are sort of the middle ground between the mailing list and the conference track?
I mean, there are, and I'm not personally involved in all of them because it would just be too much, right? But I know there's a pretty active Slack community. I'm not on there myself, so I hear about that.
Actually, Rob Treat, who's one of the speakers who's giving that talk on advanced int to big int conversions, he is, I think, the administrator on the Postgres Slack. So yeah, it's there. It's a thing.
And everybody has a different modality of working. Some people are very comfortable in email, and some people like the chat, and some people really don't like the chat because it's very interrupting for their workflows if you're hunkering down on things. So it's good to have them all. Yeah,
well, I'm also in down here in New Zealand in my time zone. It's pretty good to be asynchronous, just because a lot of the people that are, when I'm awake, they're going to be asleep. So, but I go on IRC sometimes, not so much, not as much recently as I used to, but there's a pretty good community on the official IRC channel. You can get really good technical support there. Actually, I see all kinds of really good discussions happening there. But I guess that's getting a bit old hat now.
All these
knockoffs with the web interface have taken over, right?
It was my first social network substitute, I guess, when I remember the days of MIRC and then all the CLI clients and all those kind of things. I also actually grew up in New Zealand and Auckland, and had everything, and everything was in a different time zone. So I worked in places in the US and the UK and Israel and others. It's you learn a lot about async workflows. A lot.
Yeah. Well, and you get time for deep work too. I got to say, when I'm on business trips, which I haven't been the last couple of years, I love the fact that if I'm in Europe, I can get up in the morning and, well, A, sleep a little longer, and then B, get some work done without being interrupted, which is kind of cool. I want to roll some of those other videos. Is that okay? Cool. I'm sorry. Thomas, I think twice I've cut you off, and
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was just going to say sometimes at nighttime or end of the day, I'll fire off an email saying, I think I just spotted a bug. I just post my observation to the mailing list and go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and it's fixed. That's
cool.
That's the magic of time zones.
That's why you need distributed teams. That's fantastic.
Yes. Okay, let's roll the Citus video, which is
with the single node Citus. We have partitions. We have sharded our partitions. And if you want to scale out those, let's say the sharded partitions, you can basically add nodes to your cluster. And after adding nodes, you can basically run the rebalance table shards commands to rebalance your sharded partitions on the, let's say, the multi-node Citus cluster.
I'm going to start by just talking about the basics, single row inserts versus copy, and for that matter, upserts, which are a wonderful Postgres pattern that should be used more often. I'm going to go from there into micro-batched and parallelized copy operations. And from there, we'll get into more difficult techniques. There's one I invented that I call index juggling that's worked out pretty well for me.
I'm going to break down each stage of our journey from 0 to 1 million events, from 1 to 100 million events, and then to billions of events. And for each stage, I'm distilling our learnings into lessons that you'll walk away with for you to use in your journey, from choosing a database technology to scaling it up.
My name is Matt Dupree, and I'm going to be giving a talk on some lessons that we've learned from optimizing Citus queries at Heap. So quick disclaimer and a little bit about me. So I've been at Heap for a couple of years, and when I first started doing performance work, it was actually a little bit intimidating. People were using terms like pushdowns and shard sampling.
Not to meet you virtually. I'm Ming Wei, and I work in the Windows data engineering group. When I started off, I realized that Citus has a great distributed SQL query execution engine, right? And from a few examples, as you can see, from the data engineering point of view, this is just normal SQL, right? So this is actually very powerful.
A big data researcher and developer at the MobilityDB team. MobilityDB is a spatio-temporal database system developed by a research team in the Free University of Brussels in Belgium. And this is my talk about how it integrates with Citus to support big spatio-temporal data that it changes over time.
Hello, everyone. Today I will be talking about following select statements through Citus internals. And in fact, what does it mean that we will look into what happens under the hood when a user comes in and types a select query. And then while doing that, we will also have an opportunity to discuss some basic architectural diagrams of Citus.
Wow. So to me, of course, Citus is an extension, but you heard Mohammed just talk about MobilityDB, which is another open source extension to Postgres, and that you use in concert with PostGIS, yet another open source extension to Postgres. Like, I think the extendability of Postgres and how that was designed in from the very beginning is just hugely impressive and has spawned all these capabilities that wouldn't exist if everything had to be in core. So I don't know. I just remain impressed 5 years after starting to work on this project.
One thing I know nothing about, but has recently been sparked with me with something in the cloud native space, is the idea that one day we might be using WebAssembly things in Postgres. And I'm sure that's happening already somewhere, and I just missed it, and it's only just come to mind. So I can imagine that will probably pop up as an extension of some kind.
Let's roll the last video. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Stay with us, folks. It's interesting. It's the shortest video too. Okay. Azure Database for Postgres. Go for it.
And behind me, you see a fish. Bash fish is a symbol of our team. The Postgres team within Microsoft is called Orcus. So that is that fish sitting behind me. And in this session, we will go over top 10 reasons why you should choose flexible server over our existing offering, which we call single server.
Welcome to Handle Azure Postgres Auditing with Ease. I am Josephine Bush. I have a lot of DB experience. I started SQL Server, and in the last few years, I've switched over. Well, I actually do both SQL Server and Postgres now in Azure.
So what does it actually mean in numbers? Interestingly, we have, with PostgreSQL, on that PostgreSQL database, basically, we analyzed 2.7 trillion of impressions from advertisements on the internet. Each month, we add 70 million of rows of data to our PostgreSQL database.
You need to pay attention to some very important points. The data types, type of index, most important operation in most main operation. This information gives you the basis for the correct choice for the following information.
Hi everyone, my name is Sena Güngör, and I will be walking you through the journey I had while creating monitoring tools for Citus on Azure. In this talk, I will briefly explain what the most important metrics are to babysit your Postgres database and why we should keep an eye on them.
There we go.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So thank you both hugely. Thomas, you're still on mute if you want to say something. We've only got like 45 seconds left. So I think it's time to like wave goodbye to each other. I don't usually use the word like so much. I'm just really punchy. It's the middle of the night and I'm not going to sleep anytime soon.
You've been working so hard with all things
know.
Citus Con. I've had a front row seat to all of that. And thank you, Claire, for all you've done. It's been fantastic and a tremendous amount of work.
It's an honor. And shout out to, my co-chair, Teresa Giacomini, and Juliet, who's backstage. We've got a wonderful producer backstage right now named Monique. Just the whole team has been amazing. So thank you all. And the EMEA live stream is coming soon, in just a couple hours. You can go to aka.ms/CitusCon and see the live streams, the replays, get the on-demand talks. I feel like a middle of the night infomercial person, but I want you guys to know where to get the information. So there you go.
Thank you, everyone.